Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want you to think about the victims of an abhorrent travesty. I want you to think about what young children must have felt seeing their parents, their siblings, their neighbors being singled out and butchered in cold blood for no fault of theirs. Kashmiri Pandits had to pack all their life's belongings, their memories, and whatever they had to leave the land they knew as home and live like refugees in their own homeland. Unfortunately, the conduct of a certain section of our politicians has shown that things could have been much worse. Even 32 years later, there is a concerted effort to brush aside the truth. Some in this country want to pretend like the gory and grotesque crimes of 1990s never ever happened. Jittery and rattled perhaps that the trail of it would lead to their doorstep, a section of our opposition is not just slandering work of art that chronicles the plight and pain of Kashmiri Pandits. A film that recounts history is now being deemed as a weaponization of pain by the BJP. Listen in to the kind of reactions that came in from the opposition leaders across party lines.
फिल्म देख दिखाकर नफरत और बंटवारे से और नफरत की खेती से जिंदगियां नहीं चलेंगी। मोदी जी ये बताएं, हमारे कश्मीरी पंडित भाई बहनों का पुनर्वास कब तक कर देंगे? आज एक तारीख दे दें, हम उनकी तारीफ करेंगे। हिंदुस्तान में फिल्म नहीं है, चलचित्र नहीं है, हिंदुस्तान वास्तविकता है। हिंदुस्तान फिल्मों से नहीं चलेगा, हिंदुस्तान सरकार के शासन और नीति से चलेगा।
मैं एटो पर मैं देखाओ नहीं, मैं सिनेमा देखा नहीं, एनुका कोनो एटा फिल्म जिमान जल्दी होय दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और हमार ब्रॉडकास्टिंग मिनिस्ट्री एटू बैंड कर দিব লাগে। আজি আমার ভারতবর্ষের এই পরিবেশটো নাই। 30-40 বছর আগৰ এটা ঘটনা, তাৰ পিছত তো নেলিৰ ঘটনা হৈছে আৰু বিভিন্ন জায়গাৰ ঘটনা হৈছে। এটোৰ ওপৰত তো কোনো ফিল্ম বনোৱা নাই, এটো বনোৱা হৈছে অনলি টু ক্রিয়েট communal feelings আর এটু বড়ার কারণে যে হিন্দু মুসলমানের ভিতরে একটা খজিয়া হোক, মারামারি হোক কোন জায়গায়।
Now it's one thing to critique a work of art, a creative effort based on merit. Everyone has the right to do so. We live in a democratic country after all. But can there be a justification for the film being called a tool of the BJP's propaganda just because it raises some uncomfortable questions? And that is the legitimate question we are asking on the Newshour tonight. Deriding the film Kashmir Files just to deflect responsibility? Is that what's happening to this film? That's the question and the debate. Kashmir Files cover up. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Champak Kalita, General Secretary and Spokesperson of the AIUDF, which wants the film banned, Sajjad Tariq, leader of the Congress Party, Irfan Hafiz Loan, councillor and lawyer from Kashmir. But my first question goes to Aarti Tikoo, senior journalist. And Aarti Tikoo, I want to ask you tonight. Banning of the film because it promotes hatred between communities is what the opposition thinks should be done. Number one. And number two, the Congress, of course, thinks that this film is trying to run our lives and this is a deflection from the issues of the country that the BJP is using to propagate their own politics. How do you see this critique of the Kashmir Files, which brings back to the fore the pain, the travesty against Kashmiri Hindus in the decade of the 1990s?
Thank you, Navika. Very pertinent questions. The first question, that this is an old age cliched argument that something is being used to foment hatred, and therefore it should be banned. This is what every political party in India has been using time and again, whether it's about banning books, banning cinema, banning art and literature. This is the common refrain of all political parties. Clearly, in a democracy, this is used time and again because they are addressing and they're catering to their respective vote banks. But what's really unfortunate is that they're focusing on banning the movie. They're not focusing on the issue, the underlying issue, which is the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus, the last chapter of which was written in 1990. It was a systematic genocide which started 700 years ago. And it culminated in the ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Hindus in the name of Islam. It was perpetrated by jihadis who believed in the Shariat, who believed in establishing an Islamic Caliphate in Kashmir, and who believed that Kashmir, since it's a Muslim majority area, it ought to be part of an Islamic Republic. And in this particular case, Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Anybody saying anything else is completely absurd, nonsense, and a blatant lie. Now, the Congress party saying that this is a deflection and the BJP, the current government is trying to deviate the entire audience, entire country from the real issues which the nation is facing. They are free to make such allegations, but they have been deflecting on the issue of Kashmiri Hindu genocide for the last 32 years. And it is the cabal of intellectuals, the cabal of academia, cinema, media, politicians, bureaucracy, which has been deflecting on this issue for the last 32 years, and they call it secularism. They've been calling it secularism. This is a travesty, a disgrace on the independent, secular, democratic Republic of India, that they do not, even after 32 years, acknowledge that jihadis backed by Pakistan in Kashmir and also backed by the mainstream politicians in Kashmir drove out the indigenous community of Kashmiri Pandits from their homeland in 89-90. So the shame is on them. The deflection has been done by them and their cabal of Darbari intellectuals and academia and cinema, and not really somebody who has shown courage today after 32 years to make a film and to show it to the entire nation.
Very well said, and the raw pain and the raw nerve that it touches is so evident, Aarti Tikoo, in the points that you make and just in the voice that you have. And they just don't want to hear this voice. And I want to ask Champak Kalita. Champak Kalita, when a cartoon is made in France, why do people in India begin to take out processions? Why do they begin to question it? Why do they begin to say that this is a travesty against their community? It happens in France and they get worried here. I want to ask you, this happened in Kashmir, in our own country, part of this country, and most of India doesn't even understand what really happened. And you want to ban that film, but you don't want to take away the right of those who oppose what happens in a cartoon in France. I want to ask you why. Why can't you face up to realities? Why can't you face up to the abuse that has happened to this community in Kashmir, in our country 32 years ago, when you're so open to discuss cartoons that happen in France?
देखिए नाविका जी, सच्चाई से जितना खतरा है उससे ज्यादा असत्य से ज्यादा खतरा है। ये पिक्चर इसीलिए बैन होनी चाहिए कि 32 साल पहले जो कुछ हुआ, और 32 साल में बहुत पानी बह गया, 32 साल पहले जो कुछ हुआ बहुत गलत हुआ, उसको उनको रिहेबिलिट करना चाहिए। और अभी आप अगर आप देखें 1989 इसी सन में वो बजरंग ऑपरेशन बजरंग अल्फा को दबाने की नाम पे आसाम में आम आदमी पे, औरतों पे, लड़कियों पे जो जातियां हुआ, और इंडिया में इतना बहुत हुआ। 83 में आपका मैसेकर हुआ, आपका नेली में आधा दिन में 3-4 हजार लोगों को मार दिया गया, एक भी कन्विक्ट अभी तक कन्विक्शन नहीं हुआ। और बाकी जहां तक राजनीति की बात है, अगर आप देखा जाए तो 89-90 में था गवर्नमेंट वीपी सिंह का और सपोर्टेड बाय बीजेपी, लेकिन कश्मीर इशू पे गवर्नमेंट को टपल नहीं किया। उन्होंने राम मंदिर का रथ यात्रा लालू प्रसाद यादव ने रोका, इसीलिए टपल किया, इसीलिए डेड बॉडियों पे और ये जो इतना कुछ इंडिया में हो रहा है, इस पे अगर आप
तो आप बीजेपी से लड़िए ना, आप बीजेपी से लड़िए, आपको बीजेपी के साथ पॉलिटिक्स करना है, आप करिए। आप इनकी कहानी क्यों दबाना चाहते हैं? आप क्यों कह रहे हैं कि फिल्म बैन होनी चाहिए? इनके जख्म देखने में आपको डर क्यों लगता है? आपको इनकी चोट, इनके जख्म देखने में डर क्यों लगता है साहब, ये बताइए। एंड गौरव भाटिया, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन, व्हाई डू दे वांट टू टेक दिस only to the court of politics? Why will they not respond to the human tragedy? And not just the tragedy, the fact is that these Kashmiri Hindus, the Kashmiri Pandits, did not even have the basic recourse to justice because even their complaints were not heard. The complaints were not registered. They just had to live like refugees, and the matters have not even gone to court because there are no FIRs. I want to ask you, why is that truth being buried under the carpet in the midst of this crossfire of politics? Gaurav Bhatia.
Navika, to look at this issue from the narrow prism of politics would be like rubbing salt at the wounds of all the victim families. Congratulating the director of the movie, the actors who have come forward to only reveal the truth of what happened. And just see the kind of injustice that has been done due to the wrong policies of the Congress Party National Conference that was in power in Jammu and Kashmir later for a considerable time. They are not happy that the truth is coming out. And I think it is our duty not to just ensure that the truth comes out and stares at them, embarrasses them, but we also have to ensure that justice is done. Coming to the point of justice, I will tell you what has changed now. Under the leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji, we have seen, I have this picture. This picture speaks a lot. This picture is of Yasin Malik, a person who is accused of murdering 4 Air Force officers, and he is seen shaking hands with the former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji at his official residence, dictating the Kashmir policy. Do you think that the victims can expect justice when this was the policy of the government in power in the past? Now what has changed? This man is behind bars and charge sheeted and is facing a trial. Second, I am very ashamed as a citizen that we have a national party like the Congress which politicizes the issue, Navika, and the tweet from the Kerala unit of the Congress says that 100,000 Kashmiri Muslims were killed in 1948. Thus, Kashmiri Pandits, if they were forced to leave their houses, women were raped, people were murdered, is fine because 2 wrongs will make a right. What kind of logic is that? Tell me, Navika. Should a national political party be making such statements? And that is why I say that least today what we can do is acknowledge the right of freedom of speech and expression of this film crew. Because I remember when films like Parzania and other films came, this very Congress party and all the opposition political parties said it is their freedom of speech. You don't like the movie, you don't watch it, or you make your own. Today, if you know, a very competent team has come forward to bring out the truth the way they see it. You may not like it. It may be very inconvenient. But you have to also accept their right to freedom of speech and expression, which Shri Narendra Modi ji also pointed out. And in the end, I would say, a lot has changed. Much more needs to be done. But at least we will take some solace from the fact that Kashmiri Pandits are now being rehabilitated. The youth are being provided jobs under the central government. We are ensuring that after the abrogation of Article 370, everyone has equal right and there is no discrimination between the so-called original citizens of Kashmir and people from other parts of India. This is the difference that we have brought in, and our endeavor would continue to ensure that justice is meted out to every family member who has suffered due to this exodus.
Sajjad Tariq, and that's the question I want to ask you. Look at that picture on your screens. Yasin Malik standing with the Prime Minister of the country, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was asked, and he and people like him, Shabbir Shah, Gilani, all of them used to sit in Prime Minister's office and they were asked how peace could be brought back to Kashmir.
Also with the Vajpayee ji.
Kashmiri Pandits se kisi ne pucha?
Just for your information, they all also met Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. Why you are not bringing that fact?
No, but did they have?
If you see, Navika ji, we must first of all understand that Kashmir is encyclopedia of miseries and trauma. Kashmir is encyclopedia of miseries and trauma. We all suffered. Yes, this is the fact that thousands of the people lost their precious lives. And if I am right, some 1% includes our Kashmiri Pandit brothers. So just thereby meaning that we all suffered, and the way you project it, that only a particular community was victim, and you blame every Kashmiri.
They were not.
That's really unfortunate and atrocious. And Navika ji, my simple question to you is, you said it was a human tragedy. Yes, I agree, we are on the same page. We all were subjected to atrocities and brutalities. But you said that they were denied the, recourse to the justice. Agree. But why are you selective? I want to ask you, recently a minor was crying for a dead body of his father, Altaf, who police claims was an innocent. She was demanding, give me dead body for a decent burial. Wasn't that a brazen human rights violation? Wasn't that a mother of all brazen human rights violation? What about Gaukadal massacre?
What is wrong is wrong.
Massacre?
No, what is wrong. Irfan Hafiz law, nobody is going to justify whatever is wrong. But to try and paper over what happened in the 1990s, that is a cross that is carried by many in this country. And the sooner you stop trying to brush it under the carpet, the better it will be, because these wounds need to be dressed. Ye zakham hai, ris rahe hain.
But you are every moment trying to rub salt on these wounds.
Aarti Tikoo, I want to ask you,
this is a politically motivated, there is a political patronage. You want to divide this country, which is not in the national interest.
And when the Kashmiri Pandits were thrown out of Kashmir, that was unification of the country. That was unification of the country when Kashmiri Pandits could not even file an FIR. That was unification of the country when the Governor Jagmohan was writing letter after letter after letter to Rajiv Gandhi. Was that for unification of the country or to maintain friendships between Farooq Abdullah and Rajiv Gandhi? I want to ask this question to Sajjad Tariq.
जैसे देश में कोई मुद्दा ही नहीं है, आप प्राइम मिनिस्टर से पूछते क्यों नहीं है कहां गए विदेश के 15 लाख काला धन, कहां गए वो नौकरियां 5 करोड़ की?
ये मुद्दे आपने बाकी सरकारों से क्यों नहीं पूछे?
मदद कर रही है, डिफ्लेक्शन है और क्या है?
Mr. Lon.
Let law takes its own course.
Where is the law? Where are the FIRs? When is, in 32 years, where has the law gone? Aarti Tikoo,
7 years, BJP is in power.
1 minute.
There is rule of law. Why they are not taking action? Let culprits be brought to justice. Let culprits be brought to justice.
A terrorist is in jail today. Calm down.
He was previously also jail. You are factually incorrect.
Well, he's right now in this picture standing with the Prime Minister of the country of that time.
नाविका जी, जब अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी से सारे हुर्रियत के लोग मिले, ये भी मिले वाजपेयी जी से, क्या बोल रहे हैं? और उन्होंने उनको कहा, प्रोफेसर साहब जो हुर्रियत के चेयरमैन थे, हुर्रियत के कहा इस गुत्थी को सुलझाना होगा हमें मिलके। उन्होंने कहा इंसानियत, जमहूरियत, कश्मीरियत।
आरती टिक्कू इनके सिर्फ
Do they condemn Vajpayee ji? Tell me. Do they castigate and assail the decision of Vajpayee ji?
Let's ask that question from Gaurav Bhatia, but first, Aarti Tikoo. Aarti Tikoo.
Mr. Lon.
Respond to Irfan Hafiz Law.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Lon, first of all, I really urge you, appeal to you, beg you, not to put the pain and grief of Kashmiri Pandits in the same bracket as those people who have suffered because of human rights violations. I want you to think, tonight I really want you to think about the larger issue here. There has been a systematic genocide of the indigenous Kashmiri Hindus of Kashmir for last 700 years. 1990, I'm repeatedly saying this, 1990 was the last chapter of this genocide. You are still unwilling to recognize it. You are still unwilling to say that jihadis, Islamic jihadis were used and they, out of their own volition, they went and they committed atrocities against Kashmiri Hindus. They drove them out. They ethnically cleansed them. They subjected Kashmiri Pandits to genocide. You are still unwilling to recognize this. I am asking you to recognize the fact that Farooq Abdullah, Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, of which Bitta Karate, Yasin Malik and several other people were part of, they perpetrated this communal jihadi violence against Kashmiri Hindus. That Farooq Abdullah completely failed to protect Kashmiri Pandits. In fact, he encouraged this entire lobby of Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, the main terror group. In fact, it's a shame that it has taken.
Kashmiris, we all suffered.
It's a shame.
I humbly differ with you.
It's a shame that it has taken 32 years for India to designate Jammu and Kashmir as a terror organization.
That was a brazen violation.
It's a shame that you
we can't be selective about it.
It's a shame.
That's very unfortunate. We are one.
No. It's not about.
Pain. We are one.
It's not about. You are trying to equate two different issues.
Yes,
really.
There is a reasonable reason for that. There are
a large section
आरती जी सफर किया
a large section of Kashmiri
अल्ताफ की बेटी नहीं मांगी कि बाप की लाश आरती जी मानव अधिकारों का उल्लंघन हुआ
Do you want to listen or no?
उनको अपनी आवाज सुनाने का हक है कि नहीं है लोन साहब? बोल लेने दीजिए. आपने बोला, अब उनकी बारी है, उन्हें भी बोल लेने दीजिए.
इतनी क्लींजिंग नहीं है, ये ब्रेजन ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशन है जो आपको निकाला गया. हम सब उसके शिकार हैं.
Basket. It is not fair. It is not fair. Who picked up guns against India? Did I pick up guns? I did not pick up guns. Who picked up stones and arms and ammunition against India? Was it I? Was it my family? Was it my community? We did not pick up guns against anyone, including your community. We did not do anything. Now you keep coming back to human rights violations. Yes, human rights violations happened, but you have to also explain the context. What's the context? The context is that a large section of Kashmiri Muslims picked up arms and guns against India and also against Hindus. And the reason was the communal reason.
Don't blame. Don't
and the reason was the reason was that Kashmiri Muslims wanted to be part of Islamic Republic of Pakistan.
You are on a mission to defend
the only reason.
What do you mean? You are a handful people. You are a handful people. I want to ask you, what do you mean by you are? अगर एक इंसान भी है,
हम कश्मीरी पंडित जो हैं, हम प्यार से रह रहे हैं।
अगर एक भी हिंदू होगा तो आप क्या कहेंगे कि उसके खिलाफ चले जाओ? एक भी है, handful of people and their agenda. I object to this. Gaurav Bhatia, handful of people. What is Mr. Irfan
indulgent malicious campaign against Kashmiris? Even today we have a strong bond with Kashmiri Pandit brothers. Many are residing with us. They are in my neighborhood. I tell you with full sense of responsibility. These handful people come on television and malign every Kashmiri. This is very dangerous. This is not in the national interest.
There were 5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus. There were 5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir till 89. You today have 200 families. Is that what you are saying?
That is wrong. If you think you're the only person who's going to speak and everybody else will have to keep quiet and listen to you, then that's not the way the debate works. Aarti Tikoo making a point, and then I'm going to Gaurav Bhatia. Aarti, complete your point.
Yeah. The only point here is this, that a section of Kashmiri Muslims in 87 picked up guns against India because they saw India as a Hindu country. They picked up arms and ammunition against Kashmiri Hindus because they all wanted to make Kashmir a part of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, because they did not believe in the secular, plural, democratic India. They believed in a Sharia governed country. They wanted Pakistan, they wanted to be part of an Islamic Republic.
Respond. Was there not a fatwa to say that either convert or leave Kashmir? Was there or was there not? Were masjids not used as a base to spread this message of hate? Yes or no?
Give me 2 minutes. आप खामोशी से सब लोग, सिर्फ मैं 2 मिनट ही लूंगा, ज्यादा नहीं. एक मैं आरती को ये कहना चाहूंगा कि Muslims of Kashmir and J&K were having full choice to go to Pakistan. We rejected Pakistan and we accepted India because we were having that nationalist feeling. 1 point. Second point is this, like we are talking of Kashmir Files. There is one more movie which is coming up, Parzania. There are 3 other movies which are on riots. Let it be Gujarat riots, let it be 1984 6 riot. If we are making 200 movies like this, and the whole world is watching these movies, what impression of a democratic country we are giving it to the rest of the world and to the new generation? Kashmiri Pandits, they need rehabilitation.
In putting two different issues
Why not together? Rehabilitation? Why we are not talking on the rehabilitation issue?
Debate.
So this is not the thing. We are going on the wrong track.
This is an
What is the right track?
This is an illogical debate.
Right track is this.
This is an illogical debate.
Track is this.
You are putting two incongruous issues together in the same basket.
Hindu, Sikh, Christians.
You are bringing
because Aarti, it suits their narrative. It suits their narrative to completely sideline the basic issue at hand. They will completely divert from the real issue, Aarti. You're right. They will only talk about human rights violations. They will not talk about the 1990s. They will not talk about the complicity of the Congress government. They will not talk about the Governor Jagmohan and Gaurav Bhatia. That is the design that has been followed for 32 years. Gaurav Bhatia, respond to Mr. Tariq. Respond to Mr. Tariq, Gaurav Bhatia. The floor is Gaurav Bhatia's. I'm lowering everybody else's faders.
Thank you, Navika. Navika, first of all, what Aarti Tikoo ji said is a feeling with millions of Indians. This debate is very, very important for the reason we have to debate, even if we are on different sides, with a lot of sensitivity. We have to feel the pain of the victims who waited for justice for more than 3 decades. And Irfan Lone is a lawyer. I would have called him my brother also, but I've heard him calling Burhan Wani his brother. So I just want to say one thing, Irfan Lone ji, I am pained when you say ये मुद्दा नहीं है. मैं आपको बताऊं पेट्रोल के प्राइसेस क्या हैं, खाने में क्या मिलेगा, सरकार किसकी बनेगी, all this can wait. There can't be a bigger issue than this, that there are certain families waiting for justice and justice has been denied to them. Their dignity to live has been denied. And मैं आपसे कहता हूं, आपने कहा handful of people are propagating lies, falsehood. I want to ask you, and I believe firmly that every citizen's life is important. The same lobby Navika used to come out, Eklat mara gaya, very sad, his family should get justice. They used to say democracy is in danger. We are talking about 100,000 Kashmiri Pandits. We are talking about thousands of women who were raped. We are talking about many families whose loved ones were murdered, butchered, and they have not got justice. But for them, this is propaganda. So I think you really need to introspect and become a human being first before we debate this issue. My second point, you know, on the positive side, what has changed, Navika? Under Narendra Modi ji, we have seen Yasin Malik going behind bars. Bitta Karate, who infamously proclaimed that he has murdered Kashmiri Pandits, is behind bars. JKLF, the outfit of Yasin Malik, is banned. And I'm ashamed to say that earlier from the mosque, आजान में बोला जाता था कि तुम कश्मीर की धरती को छोड़ दो, और जब छोड़ रहे हो तो अपनी बीवियों को और बेटियों को यहां छोड़ जाओ. आज किसी की हिम्मत नहीं है कि इस भारत में एक बार भी ऐसी आजान बोल सके. अगर बोलेगा तो वो जेल की सलाखों के पीछे होगा. And one more thing, since 1952 the tricolor was never hoisted at the Jammu and Kashmir Secretariat. That has changed after the abrogation of Article 370. This is what India needs. India needs that we are united, and Kashmir and every inch of Kashmir's land belongs to every Indian. किसी के बाप की जागीर नहीं है, ये बात याद रखना. Thank you.
And Mr. कालिता जी, मैं आपसे यही पूछना चाहती हूँ. आप कह रहे हैं कि ये डाइवर्जन है, बीजेपी की मदद हो रही है. एक सेट ऑफ चुनाव हो चुके हैं और 2024 का चुनाव अभी दूर है. अगर इसमें पॉलिटिकल मोटिव होता तो क्या ये फिल्म 1 महीने 2 महीने पहले नहीं आ जाती, उत्तर प्रदेश के चुनाव से पहले, या 1.5 साल बाद नहीं आ सकती थी 2024 के पहले? मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूं कि हर चीज को राजनीतिक तराजू में तोलना ये कहां तक सच है? अगर आपको कोई दिक्कत है कि इसमें ये फैक्ट सही नहीं है तो आप उस पर डिबेट करिए, बट टू से कि ये पॉलिटिकल रीजंस के लिए है, इट बेनिफिट्स वन पार्टी, आई एम सॉरी, आर यू ट्रिवियलाइजिंग द पेन ऑफ पीपल ऑफ आवर कंट्री, पीपल हु हैव सफर्ड?
देखिए नाविका जी, मैं आपका बात पे आऊं, पहले मैं गौरव भाटिया जी से बोलना चाहूंगा, अगले बार जब आप आओगे तो आसाराम बापू और नरेंद्र मोदी का भी फोटो लेके आइएगा. और अभी मैंने देखा नाविका जी, आप लोग का जो एजेंडा है, आप लोगों ने मुफ्ती मोहम्मद सैयद का, राजीव गांधी का फोटो दिखाया, लेकिन नरेंद्र मोदी का जो शपथ ग्रहण हुआ था मुफ्ती मोहम्मद सैयद का, वो फोटो आप लोगों ने नहीं दिखाया. और आपको मैं पहले बताऊं, जब मुफ्ती मोहम्मद सैयद होम मिनिस्टर था तो ये सब हुआ, इसी आदमी को जाके चीफ मिनिस्टर बनाया नरेंद्र मोदी ने, तो जस्टिफाई किया कि नहीं? और जहां तक ये आप लोग का ये यासीन मलिक वाली बात है, तो आप लोगों को याद होगा NSCN का साथ भी नागालैंड में जो इंडिपेंडेंट मांग रहा है, इनके साथ भी बैठ करके नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने टॉक किया है. तो इसीलिए ये जो टिक्कू जी है, इनकी बातों से ऐसा लग रहा है तो मेरा कुत्ता टॉमी और तुम्हारा कुत्ता कुत्ता. इसीलिए ये आप लोग का जो चीज है, मैं पहले बोला हूं, अर्ध सत्य है और ये निपटना चाहिए, लेकिन दिखाना नहीं चाहिए. इसीलिए कि इतना कुछ हो गया इंडिया में, सबको अगर दिखाने लग जाओगे तो इंडिया जल जाएगा और हम लोग का सोशल।
ये चंपक जी आपने किसको कहा है?
AIUDF कभी भी सेंट्रल में सरकार में नहीं है।
आरती टिक्कू जी आपसे सवाल पूछ रही हैं। आरती टिक्कू जी आपसे सवाल पूछ रही हैं। आपने जो कहा उस पर सवाल है। आरती टिक्कू जी आप पूछिए।
आप लोग का भी एक सहाफी होने के नाते आप लोग का
चंपक जी बात सुनिए। चंपक जी ये मुझे बताइए, आपने ये टॉमी किसको कहा और ये कुत्ता किसको कहा? एक तो पहले मुझे लगता है टीवी पे आने से पहले थोड़ा आप अपना मैनरिज्म कहीं सीख के आइए। दूसरी बात मुझे लगता है AIUDF की जो
तुम्हारा कुत्ता आपको किसी
AIUDF की जो पॉलिटिक्स है।
नहीं मैं
किसको बोला आपने? ये किसको बोला कुत्ता और टॉमी? आपने किसको टॉमी और कुत्ता बोला?
आपका बात ऐसा
किसको बोला आपने?
मैं इस पे स्टैंड हूँ।
नहीं तो तो क्या मेरी बातों से मेरी बातों में आपने किसको कुत्ता कहा और किसको टॉमी कहा, ये बताइए ना।
ह्यूमन राइट्स की बात है, उसने अब बार जेनोसाइड करके जा रहा है। तो अब तो जेनोसाइड इंडिया में बहुत हुआ है, गुजरात में हुआ है, असम में हुआ
आपको ह्यूमन राइट्स इश्यू, आपको ह्यूमन, मैं आपको बताती हूँ। चारे चंपक जी मुझसे बात सुनिए, मुझसे सुनिए, मैं आपको सुनाती हूँ मैं कि टॉमी क्या होता है और कुत्ता क्या होता है। आपको मैं सुनाती हूँ।
आरती टिक्कू आपको समझा रही है, आपने प्रॉब्लम कहा वो आपको समझा रही है। होल्ड ऑन,
सुनने की क्षमता रखिए। चंपक जी आप सुनने की क्षमता रखिए, 1 मिनट दीजिए। मैं पिछले 20-22 साल से पत्रकारिता में हूं। मैंने ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशंस के बारे में लिखा है। अगर आपने पढ़ा नहीं तो वो मेरी गलती नहीं है, आप पढ़ते नहीं तो उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि किसी ने काम नहीं किया है। मैंने 22 साल लगाए हैं कश्मीर पे। मेरी रिसर्च जाके देखिए, मेरी पत्रकारिता जाके देखिए। लेकिन आप मेरी बात सुनिए, मेरी बात सुनिए, मेरी बात सुनिएंगे आप। अब आप मेरी बात सुनिए। मेरे को जब ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशंस के बारे में बात करनी होगी तो मैं उस दिन करूंगी। आज मेरा विषय है, आज मेरी कहानी का दिन है, तो आज अपनी आप ये ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशंस की पॉलिटिक्स कहां लेके आए? आज आप सिर्फ मेरे मुद्दे पे बात कीजिए। ये ह्यूमन राइट्स वायलेशंस की बात जिस दिन होगी, मेरी पत्रकारिता में आपको सामने रखूंगी। ये इल्जाम आपने जिसको लगाया है बिल्कुल गलत लगाया है। दोबारा ऐसी जुर्रत मत करिएगा, मैं आपको कोर्ट ले जाऊंगी।
कलिता साहब, जिनके जख्मों को समझने में आपने इतनी देर लगा दी, आज कम से कम उन पर नमक मत छिड़किए। I just want to ask one question, and Gaurav Bhatia, all the allegations are about the fact that this movie, it's not about the truth anymore. Nobody wants to know the truth because it's convenient not to know the truth. But every objection is around the fact that it disturbs peace and harmony that exists in this society. I want to ask you, peace and harmony does not get disturbed when they call the Prime Minister a dictator. It does not get disturbed when there is award wapsi. It does not get disturbed when there are fake news allegations that are made about churches being burned. It's only about this story that there is a danger of peace and harmony being disturbed. Does that sound strange to you, Gaurav Bhatia?
Navika, first of all, I think Champak ji needs to be responded to. And, he was issuing certificates to Aarti ji. I would only answer back in his language. In Assam, since I was also there, working for my party, I remember Piddi and Tommy came together. What happened? They lost the election. And why do I use this analogy? I'll tell you. These people view at everything through the prism of religion.
Well,
they can talk about Rohingyas' human rights. And Rohingya are not even citizens of our country, Navika. But they are not worried about Kashmiri Pandits and Hindus.
And that's,
because
that's the
threat
travesty of justice.
Doesn't
and
bind
that
them together.
is the turning of a blind eye to the events of this country. While we do not endorse calling anybody by any names, nobody should be called Piddi, Tommy, Kutta, this, that. The question here is only one. Have we forgotten to feel the pain of our own brothers and sisters? And just one film that talks about it, one film in 32 years, and it creates such a ruckus that everybody is out to push the truth under the carpet and ask for the ban of this film? What happened to those who stand up for freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and creative independence? It took just one film to completely dismantle that ecosystem. That's the question the country is asking tonight. Thank you very much to my guests for joining me on debate number 1.